Back in the project now, we are going to add some if conditions for our target to make sure that we have something a little bit more dynamic to see how this works. So first, let's go to staging Avengers history. I'm going to do both of these changes in Avengers. Let's say I know that notes in the data has the word NA, non-applicable, sometimes in some of the columns, and we want to keep that out in dev for whatever reason. So what we're going to do is add an if condition using Jinja. And the way that works is like this. We start with a bracket, and we're going to, this time, instead of double brackets, use the percentage sign. And within here, it'll be if, and then the identifier is target.name. So target is really, any of this is a target, and we're saying the name is this or this. So target.name equals dev, we'll say in this example. And the other end of this is going to be also with the parentheses. And this kind of stuff here, you know, the if and the syntax is just muscle memory. You're just going to have to get used to it, and eventually it'll become second nature. It might be tough at first, but you'll get there, or just copy and paste if that's what it takes. And within here, what we'll say is where notes not equal to NA. So again, what this is going to say is if the target is dev, add in this where condition. Otherwise, keep it out. And we can see this if we compile. Let's do target prod again, and I'll open up the compilation from that one. If we open this up, we can see it's not included. But if we do a target dev, or let's say we didn't have it specified by default, we should see it pop up here. And here it is. So again, think about what DBT is doing. It's compiling and using it that way. The other option, like we mentioned, is to add it to our sources. We could go to our source file and say, we don't always want it to be raw dev. We want it to be something else when it's production. And so let's use this same concept right here. And we could see this is doing the same thing. It's a bunch of if conditions, if else. And let's just copy this here. We'll use this and add it here. So in our case, target.name, it's the same concept, but all we have is dev and prod. We can get rid of this one. And ours isn't raw prod, it's just raw. And we can keep this, otherwise invalid database, kind of as a catch. And the way this is going to work now is, let's say, again, this is the compiled version. This is the DBT version. If we do the same thing here, let's do target dev first. We would expect this to stay as is, as it does. And if we do prod, we would expect this to change to just raw. And there it does, because it's raw. Now that we know it's going to compile that way, let's try to run it for production and see if it'll deploy to our production environment and if everything here works as we expect. So I'm going to clear this, Control L, and let's run our whole project, dbt run. And what we'll do is target prod. You can see target prod. And I'll call out here, this is where having the threads sometimes can speed it up. We only have one, but if you had multiple, maybe it would go faster. But still not too bad. Let's go now back to our project. And previously we didn't have anything, but now we have all of our models here in analytics. And remember, the data is different between the source dev, raw dev and raw. If we look at any of these staging models, there's only going to be 9 records. But if we look now in production, in analytics, we should see much more. And we see there's more because it's sourcing from different data. So if you have different environments, which you probably will and should, if you're strategic about how you set up your DBT project and take advantage of, the targets here and here and just be strategic and just be smart about how you build it, you can make it a lot easier on yourself and make it more dynamic so that you can build out all of this, but still in one project. You don't need necessarily different projects for different environments. It's all right here. And that also wraps up this section on building our initial project. And what we'll do in the next one is look at some additional features, which are seeds and packages, which we'll just cover briefly. They're really cool things that you can do. And so I'll see you at the next section.